Have you ever felt invisible to the people who should see you most clearly? Your worth dismissed by those whose approval you once craved. Picture toiling in silence, building something extraordinary, only to have your family label you a failure until the moment you unveil a truth so staggering it redefines everything. That's my story. I am Camila Johnson, 35, living in Chicago, where the skyline glitters with possibility. But I grew up in the North Shore suburbs, in a sprawling home that felt more like a museum than a family space. My father, Richard Johnson, built Johnson Industries from a single warehouse into a manufacturing empire. To him, the company was everything. My mother maintained appearances, and my brother David was the golden heir groomed to take over the business. I was the outsider, while they saw machines and assembly lines. I saw systems, finance, and invisible flows of capital. I chose Northwestern, studied finance, and graduated at the top of my class. I built my career at Meridian Partners, specializing in distressed companies and turnarounds. By 30, I was managing tens of millions in assets, yet none of it mattered at home. At family gatherings, I was just Camila, while David was the future. My achievements were ignored or dismissed. I stopped sharing them entirely. Even as I outperformed expectations in the financial world, my father believed I was irrelevant to his legacy. Then came the crisis. Johnson Industries overextended itself with a failed expansion and began collapsing under debt. Banks pulled back. Bankruptcy loomed. And still, no one called me. I could have let it fall. Instead, I acted through Meridian. I engineered a discreet acquisition of a controlling stake by intermediaries. I structured debt restructuring, stabilized operations, and quietly became the invisible force keeping the company alive. My identity remained hidden. To my family, the saviors were investors, not me, for 2 years. I rebuilt their empire from the shadows. At Thanksgiving 2024, everything broke open. At the family table, my father announced a reckless buyback plan to reclaim control of the company. I asked one question: whether it was financially sound. That was enough to trigger the truth I had been carrying for years. I told them I was the investor. I owned 51% of Johnson Industries. I had saved the company they believed was still theirs alone. Silence consumed the room. Then came denial, anger, accusations. My father called it manipulation. My brother called it betrayal. But the documents on the table told the truth no one could erase. I left that night into the cold Chicago air, finally no longer invisible. The next day, lawyers confirmed what I already knew: the acquisition was airtight. There was no loophole, no reversal, only reality. At Meridian, we met face to face. My family sat across from me with their attorney, trying to reclaim control, but they had none left. I offered them a structured path forward: 3 years of gradual ownership restoration tied to performance. Not revenge, not punishment, stability. But truth has consequences. For the first time, my father looked uncertain. Weeks later, a photograph arrived at my office, me as a child on the factory floor, curious and afraid. With it, a note: I lost sight of the daughter who asked fearless questions. I'd like to start again. Christmas Eve was different. At the North Shore home, something had shifted. My mother apologized for her silence. My father admitted he had been wrong about me, about legacy, about everything he thought he understood. My brother, though resistant, began to see the truth too. We didn't heal instantly. We rebuilt. Eventually, I stepped into Johnson Industries as CFO, not as an outsider, but as an equal partner. The company stabilized further under a shared leadership structure. His operational grit, my financial strategy. For the first time, I wasn't erased. I was integrated, but more importantly, I stopped seeking validation from people who couldn't see me. The lesson wasn't that I won. It was that I no longer needed to. Family isn't a fixed inheritance. It's something rebuilt through accountability, honesty, and time. And legacy isn't what you are given, it's what you choose to continue, reshape, or refuse. Today, I look at the Chicago skyline and understand something simple. My worth was never in question, only their ability to see it, and that was never my burden to carry.